As you may have seen, I've released several videos on the channel lately about the record pie, and a lot of the comments I've gotten on those videos have consisted of various ways to say, why are you wasting your time on this system to fix 99-cent records? That's not a valuable use of either time or money. And yeah, you would be right if that's my plan, is to stick with those. But I'm starting out trying to repair some 99-cent records just because I want to learn how the system works so that if I ever find that very valuable, very rare $100 record that's warped, that I can try to save it and already be familiar with the process. Because as we saw in the first video I did, which I'll link up here if you haven't seen it, I did the process incorrectly. And although I didn't mess up the record, it took a lot longer to fix it than it otherwise would have. So that's why I'm messing around with the record pie on these 99-cent records right now. Along the same lines, you may have seen from some of my other videos that I'm a big Beach Boys fan. And in fact, there's only a couple of Beach Boys releases that I don't have yet because they're exceedingly rare. In particular, their very first single before they ever signed to Capitol was on a small Los Angeles independent label called Candix. And it was a song called Surfin' that they came up with back when they were still known as the Pendletones, before they had even released anything as the Beach Boys. And they had this small deal to put out this little 45, little independent, only in the Los Angeles area. So this song, Surfin', was originally issued as Candix 331. It was later reissued as Candix 301. And while both are exceptionally rare, the 301 is slightly less common than the 331. The 331, when it sells, tends to go for major, major money. And the 301, as you can see from the screenshots I took on eBay earlier today, can still run into big, big bucks, even though it is a little more common. Well, lo and behold, a copy of Candix 301, the reissue, has come into my possession after literally a couple of years of trying to find one at what I deem to be an affordable price. This is by far the cheapest I've ever seen a copy of these sell for. I'm happy to have it, but why did I get it so cheap, you ask? Because guess what? It's warped. And this is exactly the kind of reason that I bought the record pies, that eventually I thought maybe I might be able to buy a record that I otherwise couldn't afford because it is damaged in some way and maybe try to repair it. So I thought this would be a fun project for us today to see if we can save this copy of Surfin' by the Beach Boys. And notice that initially they were the Pendletones when they recorded this song, and the label, without telling them, changed the name and issued it as Beach Boys. Not even the Beach Boys, just Beach Boys. So a very rare record. I'm very happy to have it. This leaves only one major thing in my Beach Boys collection that I don't have, and I'll talk about that at some other time. Now, this song, Surfin', was later reissued on their first Capitol album, Surfin' Safari. So this song, the A side, is easily available on vinyl if you want it, but the B side of this 45 is a song called Luau that has never been issued on vinyl, at least not on an official album. It may be on one of those like rarities of the Beach Boys collection or lost Beach Boys tracks kind of collections. But the flip side is pretty rare and pretty uncommon even now. Very happy to have it, and let's see if we can save it. All right, we've got the record on the turntable, and by the way, this is the first time I've had a 45 RPM on this turntable since I bought it, so you can see how seldom I actually play anything at that speed. Now, as a reminder, or as a clarification, the seller told me that this record has an edge warp. So let's take a look at what happens when we start the record spinning. Let's see what we see. All right, I definitely can see an edge warp coming in. Let's see if we can get a close-up of that. Yep, there is definitely a little bit of damage to the outer grooves, only the outer grooves. Definitely looks playable apart from this little glitch at the outer edge. All right, I don't have the speakers on, but let's see what happens if I drop the needle. Let's see how this tracks. All right, well, I can tell by listening in through a headphone that it does actually skip a little bit. Maybe for the first 4 rotations or so, it skips just like a few seconds ahead, and then it stops. And then from about, I don't know, 6 or 7 grooves in, it plays normally after 6 or 7 rotations. So it plays, but yeah, that edge warp is enough of a problem to cause an issue. All right, we're going to turn it over, and this is the flip side, Luau. And we're going to do the same thing. We are just going to drop the needle and see if what effect this has. All right, we can see it riding that lip of the warp. And same thing as the first side, it does skip for the first couple of rotations, and then it stops, and then it plays normally with some surface noise. So let's see what, if anything, the Record Pi can do to help. All right, now for the first time ever, we are going to be using the 7-inch felt mats. So let's go ahead and get the record on there. All right, we got the mat on top of and below the record with just the label sticking through. And then we add the heavy metal plate to weigh it down and hopefully flatten it out. And then we add the wing nut to fasten it together. And remember, we tighten it securely, but we do not over tighten. And then we start the app. And almost immediately the temperature begins to go up. We then place the record plate into the bottom portion of the pouch, and then we fasten the Velcro. We shut the lid and zip it up. And then we wait for the temperature to reach 120 or 125. Then we start our 2-hour timer. Hi everyone, it's been a couple of days since I recorded the first part of this video, and I'm about to take the tree down, but before I do, I wanted to update you on the status of the Beach Boys record. And I didn't expect it would take me a couple of days to come back with an update, but it has taken longer than I expected. Here's the situation. As we had mentioned earlier, every time we tried to play this Beach Boys record, it would skip 6 times, the first 6 rotations. So skip, 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 plays fine, right? So obviously not acceptable. Of course, we can hear most of the record, but I don't want to hear 6 skips in a row on each side. So I ran this through the process to flatten the record out and got immediate good results, encouraging results at least. So the first time I did it, I followed the typical procedure, 2 hours at the normal default temperature. And after I did that, the A side, Surfin, skipped twice and then played fine. So it got rid of 4 of the 6 skips after I attempted to flatten it. However, the B side still had 6 skips. So I ran it through again. And after I ran it through again, no change to the plane. However, I could feel that the warp was noticeably thinner. It was definitely making an improvement, but not enough to change the play quality. So I actually ended up doing this 6 times. After 3, no change again. After 4, no change again. And then I decided that I was going to increase the temperature for the first time. So the default temperature is 125 degrees Fahrenheit. I bumped it up to 135 and I ran it through another heating process. And this time I did it for 3 hours. And at that point, side A played fine. No skips at all on side A. Side B now skipped for the first 3 rotations, and the last 3 no longer skipped. So again, making big progress. I did it again. This time I bumped the temperature up to 135. It was 130 and then 135. I may have said 135 before, but it was 130. Then I did it to 135. And this time, the B-side, Luau, skipped on the first rotation and then didn't skip again. So I did it a 7th time. And this time with the same temperature, I didn't change the temperature. This time after it went through the heating process, when I took it out and let the record cool, I pushed down on the plate because I knew where the warp was when I put it on the plate. It was kind of, the warp was at the bottom, so I kind of pushed down for a few minutes with my hand, just kind of hard, while the record cooled for a few minutes. Now the record plays fine without skipping. So whether it was just sheer repetition, me trying really hard that did it, or whether it was putting the weight down on it, whether I just needed to do it a little bit warmer than the default of 125. At any rate, it took seven cycles before it finally plays fine. And you can still, when I run my finger along the warp, I can barely feel it. I can still see it, but if I close my eyes and I just try to like find the warp with my finger, I can do it, but it takes me a minute. Right? Earlier, it was so obvious. It was like a big, like a potato chip bulge, like a Lay's potato chip sized warp. Now it's so thin and fine that I can barely find it with my finger. So again, the point of the the point of the record pie, record pie, not vinyl pie, is to make your record playable, not necessarily perfect. So it's not perfect, but it is now playable. And this is why I bought the record pie. It was not for 99-cent records. It was so I can try and buy these records I couldn't otherwise afford, put in some work. I don't mind putting in a little work if it has a good result. This is a good result. And if the copyright police will let me do it, I'm going to upload a separate playthrough of this record because it is so rare. I think everyone should be able to hear it, just like the KFC record I did earlier. Great job to the record pie. It took some effort, it took some time, but again, I'm still learning how best to do it. And if you put the work in, you can get some good results, it seems. So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done that. I'll be back with you with more videos very soon. And if we don't talk again first, hope you all have a wonderful 2023.